So Lindsay, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Where did you start? How did you end up where you are today?
It started out of the womb. But we'll fast forward to, I think I just kind of want to start with why I feel so called to work with women in particular. And most of my issues were related to chronic illness in the form of hormone imbalance. And it really started out in my teens, put on birth control, like just really starting to have all of these different symptoms, feeling overwhelmed, feeling burnt out, feeling like my body was changing, feeling like my emotions were changing. And immediately what happened, like went to my parents who went to the doctor and was like, try this, right? Like Band-Aid fix. And really all throughout my 20s, there was just a whole range of fluctuations where I would be fine and I would be thriving. And then all of a sudden I would be like in my downward spiral again. And I went to college at 17, became an environmental engineer. I was very successful, graduated. When I graduated college, I worked my way up in this male-dominated industry, and my body was really failing. So it was like the more success that I had and the more money that I was making, the more inside that I felt like I was dying, the more detached I felt from myself. I felt very disconnected from myself. And I had all of these physical symptoms that were really starting to manifest in my body. And when I got engaged to my now husband, was told that I wouldn't be able to conceive at the time because of where my progesterone hormone levels were at. And that was what I like to call my cosmic 2x4, like really my wake up call to start living life for me. Within 6 months, went a holistic route, really just started to honor myself, really became autonomous over my body and my health, completely healed myself in 6 months, have been medication free ever since. And it really opened me up to this new world of understanding energetics and understanding spirituality and really understanding why we're here. So with that, and of course, I left corporate. I guess I should mention that part. I left corporate about 3 years ago, became an entrepreneur 5 years ago. And now I love really working with women in this reclamation of power and really this homecoming back to self and really stepping into life's work and soul-led work that is very meaningful. So I'll pass it back over to you now.
Wow, what a journey. So I would love to ask you a little bit about healing yourself, because there are a lot of women who are dealing with a lot of similar issues that you dealt with. So I would love for you to touch on that a bit, because I think a lot of people would benefit from hearing about your story.
Yeah. And I think what's really important is I love the motto and the mantra, like we are the healer that we've been waiting for. And I feel that we've been molded into this society that really leads us into looking outside of ourselves for the answers. And what I believe is all of the wisdom lives inside of us. When we're able to really connect with ourselves and our body wisdom, we carry so much information. Like if we really think about how our bodies work, right? We have oxygen, right? We give life through this carbon dioxide that comes out of our mouth. We take in life from all of Mother Nature, right? Like just if we look at how the world operates, our heart beats. We just breathe. We know how to leverage oxygen in order to oxygenate our blood cells, right? And so when we really get to the nature of it, our cells are regenerative. Like there's so much healing that can happen in our bodies. And I think a lot of times we want a quick fix. We're in that quick fix society. And I think we just have really detached from we are our own healer, like we are our own guru. And so what I did was I call it the fertile void, is I started over. I literally, with food, who were my relationships? Like what in my job was stressing me out? What was I consuming in the media, right? Like what was I filling my being with in the form of movement, in the form of how I nourished my body, in the form of what I was doing in the mornings? Like, was I picking up my phone and seeing what everybody else was doing? And I really just started to slowly bring things back in that felt good for me. And that's honestly how I healed my body. Was it easy? No. Was it linear? Of course not. But I started to notice that when I just followed what felt good, like what felt nourishing for me, when I would eat something, yes, no, when I would be in relationship with someone. Was I feeling good around them? Was I not? Was it something that I got to work on, or was this person just not for me? And I feel like creating the spaciousness to really start from a blank canvas allowed me to really bring back in what my authentic self was desiring. And that's how I live my life now. That's how I live my life, through how I work out, how I eat. And I always get to change my mind. And I think there's never a one size fits all approach. And I think we always get to change our mind in any moment, right? Like nothing is ever concrete, nothing is ever forever, except our eternal selves, but we still get to change our mind and what our preferences are.
That's like, you just saying that feels really freeing, because I feel like often when people approach healing, it's like, it's really overwhelming, right? And it's like, you want to tackle everything at once. And it's like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to do these 10 things and like eat 1,000 calories and do this and that. But like what you did instead was like, you started to connect with yourself and really feel into it to see what feels good. And so instead of this overwhelming list of things to do, you just started following yourself in each step. And as you did that, you found your way into a healed place. So that's beautiful. Yeah.
And I think I really want to presence this. Thank you for reminding me, is that it took me, right? Like claiming that and then connecting. And then what did I do? I read up on things. I went to reputable sources. I called in a doctor of Oriental medicine. I called in a board certified functional medicine doctor. I called in my support team with all of these various modalities. Once I was like, ooh, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Let me try this on. And sometimes something would align and sometimes something wouldn't, but I kept following the path. And so we live in this amazing modern world with so much support. And that's what felt really good, is like, okay, this feels like this is my next step. And then I would just call it in. And then I would be like, okay, and then what's next? So I think we have this opposite model where first we go to like the person who's supposed to tell us what to do and give us all the answers, and we're not supposed to think, or we're not supposed to feel. And that's why oftentimes I think we create a lot more resistance. And I think it takes a lot longer generally to heal, because nobody knows more about your healing than you do. Nobody cares more about your desires and your dreams than you do, right? Not the medical professional, not the parent, not the best friend.
Right. And sometimes, the Western approach is the right approach, and it's so unique for each person. So you just have to feel into it. But there's a lot of like real chronic conditions that people have gone to like every doctor and haven't gotten answers. And there is a way out, and you're a shining example of that. So I would love to talk a little bit about the body wisdom. So a lot of your work revolves around this. And you mentioned there's so much, wisdom in our body. Can you talk a little bit about that? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if we really think about it, like it's been proven, now we're starting to like actually see how a lot of this works, and especially through epigenetics, right? Like our environment absolutely can change our DNA. We also know, right, that we do carry the genetics and the DNA of our ancestors. We do carry the emotions of our ancestors, right, within us. And this is how evolution works. So I think when we really start to feel and believe and understand that, even thinking about the earth is alive, right? And we think about a tree, and we think about the insects, and we think about the animals, and then we think about us. If we think about, like the hierarchy here and the evolution and how all of us are connected, all beings are a fractal of the earth, right? And so all of this memory lives inside of us, and all of this wisdom lives inside of us. And so I think this is where it starts to be really fun, where there is ancient wisdom that lives within. And we also have this amazing evolution. We have this modern world. Like you and I are now in two totally separate places, and we have technology, and we're able to communicate and connect. And so there is this beautiful opportunity to really bridge the two together, really to tap into our ancient wisdom and to be able to evolve through technology, right? Through advancements of the modern world. And the reason why I say this is because when we're able to deeply listen, I believe we live in a society that has promoted numbing and avoidance, right? Like we think about a toddler, what is the first thing that we do is we want them to stop crying, right? Like we want to fix it. Something's broken. We're not allowed to feel our emotions. And our emotions are simply energy in motion. That's it. That is energy. We are energetic beings. And we're going to get into human design a bit later. So if we can really start to understand that we are simply a fractal of this planet that is alive. We are a highly evolved fractal of this planet, right? And there's so much wisdom. And our body also communicates 75% of the time so many other ways than just through word of mouth, right? Like we think about fight, flight, or freeze, right? We think about how a zebra, all of a sudden, what does a zebra do after a lion's chasing it and it doesn't have any of those fight, flight, or freeze, emotionally charged responses that are happening? They shake it out, and then what? They're not worried about the past and they're not thinking about the future. And so for us as humans, we have this ability as this very evolved species to what? To critically think, to be able to plan, to be able to create. Animals don't have that. Other fractals of the earth don't have that.
Right.
So it's a beautiful ability that we have to evolve, yet it can be our own worst nemesis. And that's why it feels really important to be able to connect again, to be able to feel again, to be able to recognize that we are energetic beings, to meet those emotions with love so that we can be in presence and ultimately connect to our power. And so go ahead.
I'm so sorry to do this. It's the worst timing, but someone's at the door, I think with something I have to sign. So if you can hold on for like 10 seconds.
Sure.
Hold on. Well, that's the last thing you want to happen when you're conducting an interview, but hey, we're not perfect.
Yes, you're just talking about presence, right? It's like,
right.
who decided that? I mean, it's like, this is perfect. This is being in the present moment, showing that we're not perfect beings and we still get to be successful and in our power.
Absolutely. So that is so beautiful. So I'd love to talk a little bit about human design. And so I know that's something that you do as part of your work, and a key piece, I believe, in stepping into your power is first learning about yourself. And so I know that human design is one of the tools to do that. So can you tell us more about human design and how it could help us on our journeys?
The way I explain human design is it's the art of allowing the body to lead, as we're talking about being energetic beings. And what feels really important to share is I feel like many of us have been subconsciously taught that we're not allowed to feel our feelings. We're not allowed to have emotions, right? We can't be angry. Angry is bad. Or, we have certain there's like name calling that happens, and like definitions of words have evolved over the years. And there's emotional charges that we have. And what I love about human design is the way that I love to explain it is an energetic blueprint of the truth of who we are before society got its hands on us. And it provided a lot of relief for me a couple of years ago when I first discovered it. And I felt like, oh my gosh, somebody gets me, like, I'm not alone. And that's generally what I find with my clients as well. I incorporate it into my coaching work. And it just helps that affirmation, right? Because when we're starting to deeply listen and when we're starting to learn, like, what does it mean to have wisdom? What does it mean to communicate with ourselves? It's an opportunity that provides a little bit of a framework of like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. This is how I'm supposed to show up in relationship. This is like how I can thrive in my body and in my business and in my team or in my marriage or whatever it is. And it creates just like an opportunity of a place to kind of come back to, again, to practice. So why I love the work that I do in the form of practicing, right? And like embodying and playing is people sometimes will have a human design reading and then there's a lot of information and they get overwhelmed. So you can hear the themes in my life, like less is more. And just because you receive a reading from someone on human design doesn't mean like all of it's going to align right away. Doesn't mean all of the conditioning is going to go away. Doesn't mean all of a sudden you're going to come back to your authentic self. It comes up in thematics. It comes up over time. And it's really important to just be like, what feels important to me now? Okay, I'm going to start there with that one thing so that we don't create overwhelm in trying to do too many things at once. Because what does that do? Creates more resistance and creates more stress in the body.
Yeah. So what's an example, like, because I know the human design pulls together a lot of different elements. And so what's something that you could learn from a human design session?
Well, there's something called a type. This is like the role that we're kind of here to play. There's 5 main types. And so you start to learn, oh, okay, this is why I feel like there's some people that are meant to move, that have generative energy. I am one of those people. I'm a generator, for example. So you can tell, like, I teach embodiment. Like, I love to move my body. I actually do much better in meditation when I'm moving than when I'm sitting still. I'm meant to be moving all throughout the day. I'm meant to be in relationship with people. I love connecting with people. And when I go to bed, I'm supposed to like hit the pillow and be out cold because of that energetic. Some people have a little bit more ebb and flow generative energy. They're actually meant to have a lot more spaciousness. They're not meant to perform the same tasks every day. Being with themselves a lot to replenish is extremely important. So it's more of like, how are we to be in relationship with other people, how to communicate with our kids, how to communicate with our partners, how to work in teams. Also just understanding like energetically where we tend to have strengths and where we tend to take on energetic characteristics of other people. And so it's really there, it's literally like you can literally learn anything about your authentic nature and how to really thrive in your body, and also how to be in relationship with someone like a colleague or somebody like a kid, you know, like your child.
And that could be so powerful. So like if you're if you're in a job or in a relationship where you're constantly doing something that's not in alignment with how you should be using your energy, then I can see how people could feel stuck or stagnant or, you know, frustrated. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. And some people are meant to do the work. Some people are meant to generate the ideas. Some people are meant to lead others. And so it's interesting when you start to see like somebody in a more guidance role or a more managerial role that's doing a lot of work, and you can start to hear the burnout in their voice. And then when you say like, oh, actually, this is where you feel most aligned, and people feel relief, like, oh, I've always wanted to be a teacher. I've always wanted to be a coach, because inside they feel what lights them up. And so it just kind of helps create guideposts and where you're out of alignment and where you're like, oh, that's why I have this desire, or that's why I love what I do, because you feel lit up by what you're creating in the world, not burnt out by it.
Yeah, I believe I'm a manifesting generator, one of the 5. Yeah. Cool. So yeah. So I'd love to get your perspectives on what it means to step into your power.
Well, you know where this is going. It's all inside, right? Like that life force energy. Once we can come home to our authentic nature, right? Because there's so much personality, there's so much conditioning. I like to say our eternal self is where our power lives, and where our human self is where that's like temporary. That's where our conditioning lives. And so to step into our power, to me, is stepping into the most authentic form of our essence, the fullest expression of who we are. Because when we're operating from that place, we are not taking on other people's projections. We are not in people pleasing. We are not saying yes when we mean no. We are not saying no when we mean yes. We're really honoring our bodies. We're really honoring nourishing ourselves and coming from that full place. And so it really just comes back to looking within. I feel like the more that we're able to deeply listen and connect within, the clearer the path becomes, the more present we operate from that form of presence. And that is truly where our power lives, in the present moment.
That's so true. And I've heard people talk about this like a lot, like live in your true, authentic expression of who you are. And so I know the way that it shows up for me is like through energy. It's like through literally feeling my heart center, and through having my focus be there, not just in my head, and learning how to connect to that place inside of me to express. And that's where my truth lies. That's where my alignment lives, So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Like, what does it feel like for you to be in true, authentic expression? Uh-oh.
Again, like, oh.
You froze for a second, but you're back. And I was like, was that me or Lindsay? But there you are.
That's my connection unstable.
Yeah.
Did it catch anything of what I said, or shall I start over?
Okay. Start over, yeah.
Here we go. Present. We're so powerful, we're breaking the internet. That's what I always say. Like, what we are all here to
Oh yeah, I think you cut out again.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna try it one more time.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah.
We are definitely breaking the internet with the power of this interview.
I'm gonna turn on my hotspot and work from that. Does that work for you?
Yep, I can hear you speaking now.
Okay, you want me to try? I'll try it. You want me to try it? Let's see. Okay. This is another thing, like really being in our power. Let me know if it cuts out at all, but
yeah, no, you're good.
Not being shaken by external circumstances, right? Like you had 100%. A knock at the door. Yeah, you had a knock at the door. I had the internet break up for a minute, and we get to be in full trust. Like with technology, there's breakdowns, there's things outside of our control. And to me, when we operate from that heart-centered place, right? Like we're not in the self beat up. We're not in the perfectionism. I believe that as this fractal of the earth, like as this evolutionary being, we are meant to lead with the heart and then let the logical mind create from that space, right? Like be in this receptive place, be in this space of connection. And then the logical mind gets to create, gets to support, gets to take action, not the other way around, which I think is how a lot of leaders have operated for a long time. This is another reason why I feel it's really powerful for women in particular to really step in leadership at this time, because we have this ability to lead from this space and show our male counterparts, right? Like how it's possible to be an authentic leadership, to connect to the heart, right? To have our walls down, to still be in discernment while leading from that space. And it takes, it takes meeting those parts of ourselves that we sometimes want to shut down, which is, I believe, what creates that space that you're talking about of expansion in the heart center.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this interview is a perfect example. Like, it's learning to be in that neutral point when all of this crazy stuff is happening, and just like, I liked what you said, trusting that everything's going to work out and it's all going to be okay.
I call it becoming the eye of the hurricane, right?
Yes.
This is it. It's, the more we become clear with our authentic self, right? And that, like, we hear a lot of jargon thrown around, but I love that you asked the question. It's the feeling. Choose what feels good. Don't force yourself to do the thing. Create an opportunity to feel good again and then do the thing, right? Like, that's how you create pleasure in anything that you do. That's how you create joy in anything that you do. That's how things become lighter. That's how people are like, how are you thriving, Lindsay? How are you feeling so good? How are you showing up the way that you're showing up? And it's because I've deepened, I've healed, right? Like, it's not always felt good in the moment, but the other side is always euphoric. It's like a workout. Sometimes we don't want to start the workout, but we choose because we know we're going to feel good on the other side. And then we're like, this is the best thing I ever did. And then we go on to the next thing, right? Then we feel good. Then we go on to the next thing. And I feel like that's the key to freedom and liberation, is really choosing what lights me up, what brings me joy, what feels good in my body, and continuing to follow that path.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. All right. So for my last question for you today, can you offer one practical tip or trick that our audience can apply today to step into their power?
Yes. To me, presence equals power. And the easiest way to connect in the present moment in a world that is truly the hurricane, right? In the world where the media headlines are pulling to grab you in, right? And people are really living in a space of fear and uncertainty, right? And there can be a lot of emotional charge in relationships and in communications, is simply breathing. And what I didn't touch on earlier is through the vagus nerve, which some of you may have heard of the vagus nerve. It falls at the base of our belly and connects all the way up to the cranium, all the way up to the brain. And the majority of the time through the vagus nerve, the body's actually telling the brain what to do, not the other way around. And so there's more, right? Foundation, feedback, and science to prove that when the body is feeling present, the body is in safety, and the body's then able to say, like, okay, what is really meaningful in this moment? So what I invite all of us to do, we'll just do it really briefly.
All right, let's do it.
So you can be my guinea pig, Monica, is I want you can close your eyes. Usually if you can have your feet grounded on the floor, it's really supportive. Have your palms up on your thighs. And just take a deep breath in through the nose for 5 seconds. Hold at the top for 5. And I want you to actually exhale out the mouth with a sigh for 5. And then pause at the base for 5. Now I want you to do that again. And while you're taking the inhale in, I want you to stretch your arms up over your head. So take a deep breath in for 5 seconds through the nose and inhale your arms up over your head. And then at the top, hold and maybe stretch, maybe take in a little bit more air, really stretch. And I want you to drop your arms down as you exhale and pause and hold. Then we're going to do it one more time. We're going to take that deep breath in, extend the arms up over your head. Biggest breath of the day. Hold at the top. And then what I want you to do on the exhales, I want you to shake it out. Stomp your feet, shake it. And then what I want you to do, I love your eyes for a minute now with your palms down on your thighs and just be, you asked how you feel it. So connect. What are you feeling? What sensations are we body? Do we feel an emotion? Do we feel like oxygen is pumping through our this is how we change our state. So obviously I took you through this, but literally in a minute or less, we can completely change our state through connecting to the breath, which is then telling the body that we're safe, which is then creating presence, which then allows us to make decisions from alignment, which connects us to our power. So I'd love to hear really briefly, did you notice a shift? Like, did you feel something in your body that felt a bit different? Do you feel more energized? Do you feel, I would love to hear, Monica, what came through.
Yeah, no, it was just like a broader, like it was like more awareness and presence. And I felt my energy shift from my head like down. Cause like I have a tendency, like most of my energy is like from my heart up. And so I'm working on clearing like in my belly area, because like a lot of times like that's uncomfortable for me, so like being in that area is uncomfortable, and so I'm learning to get into that space. And so through this exercise I felt like more grounded in my belly area, which was helpful. Yeah.
Well, I love this because this is actually, right, that is the womb, that is the center of all creation, that is where our life force resides. And so many of us as well are learning to come on. Again, you're not alone in that, right? Like we've lived fragmented in like half of our body, but just having that awareness of like, ooh, something to explore, like it's uncomfortable for me, and just continuing in your own time, in your own way to gently meet that. That's only going to expand your power even more, because I always say women have two hearts. It's our womb and it's our hearts. And then we create, you know, like we take action through the logical mind. So I'm excited to see what more continues to unfold for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's exciting. It's a journey also for all of us. Well, wonderful. So I know you have a very generous free gift for our audience. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, it is the Awaken Woman Archetype Quiz. And so it's a 10-question quiz, and it really allows you to start to understand. It actually works with the energetic blueprint of human design. So there's actually some songs, there's some movement practices to really start to embody your unique energetic type so that you can start to live more in alignment with the truth of who you are, which of course only expands your power in this world. So with that, I know that you're going to share the gift, and I'm excited to
Yes, yes. So you can access the gift. There's a link right below this video, so check it out and join Lindsay's world. Learn. Also, tell us about your member, your group again. So
yes.
we can, yeah.
Yeah, so I am on Instagram and I am on Facebook. Where I really love to hang out is in my private group, the Awaken Woman Collective. It's a community for those who identify as women from all over the world and really are just heart-centered, you know, really leading from the heart, really, you know, in that continued exploration of remembrance and really awakening to their authentic truth. So if you feel called, it's a very safe space to self-express and to get to know other like-minded women. And I would love to have you there.
It's beautiful. So make sure to check out Lindsay's world, get to know her, and then we will see you back at the next interview. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.